Hi there, I welcome you to my video about the use of the weighted average cost method of inventory valuation. Now, the weighted average cost method is one of the three approaches of valuing your business inventory stock, and it determines the average cost of all inventory items based on individual costs and the quantity of each item held in stock. Now, businesses use the weighted average cost method to determine the amount that goes in the inventory and in the cost of goods sold. Remember, when a business purchases items of inventory, they may pay different prices due to diversity in the types of inventory stock or the same stock items purchased at different items. Now, in the weighted average cost method, the cost of goods available for sale is divided by the number of units available for sale and is commonly used when inventories are so melded or identical to each other. That is where it is impossible to assign specific costs to single units. Of course, in this scenario, we see a hardware that deals in the sale of cement and other buildings material. And we have been told that this hardware uses the weighted average cost method. You need to know how to calculate the weighted average cost method. Now, when using the weighted average cost method, you divide the cost of goods available for sale by the number of units available for sale, which yields the weighted average cost per unit. Of course, in this calculation, the cost of goods available for sale is always the sum of the opening inventory plus the purchases. Of course, this weighted average figure is then used to assign a cost to both the closing inventory and the cost of goods sold. Let's try to look at our scenario and we see. So Tuzimbe hardware deals in the sale of cement and other buildings materials. The hardware uses the weighted average cost method to determine the monthly inventory cost. 31st December 2022, there were 200 bags of cement at a total cost of shillings 5,770,000. So that is 31st December 2022. And the transactions we have are for the month of January 2023, meaning that at the start of January, on the first day, 1st January 2023, we already have the opening inventory from the previous month, which is 31st December 2022. Those are 200 bags at a total cost of 5,770,000. Then we have the transactions for the month of January 2023. You have the date, the purchases, the quantity, the unit price. Then you also have the issues. You also have the issues, the date, the quantity issued out, and then the quantity in bags that were issued out. Then on 15th January 2023, one of the customers returned 50 bags of cement to the business, being part of the bags sold on 7th January 2023. So there is a return. One of the customers returns. We are going to see how we can incorporate that in our calculations. Then the business returned the 40 bags of cement to the supplier on 23rd January 2023. This time around, it's the business supplying. So in accounting, we call these the return outwards. We are going to see also how to deal with this. What are we required to do? Prepare a store's ledger card and determine the quantity and cost of closing stock as at 31st January 2023. Of course, you have 10 marks there. So let's see how we can work on this. Of course, you have to prepare what we call a store ledger card. And the method you're going to use is the weighted average cost method. So let's prepare our store ledger cards. Of course, I've drafted one already, as you can see. Zimbe Hardware Stores ledger card for the month of January 2023. That is my store ledger card already prepared for you. That is our store ledger. That is our store ledger cards. Just trying to use different colors to make my store ledger cards better one, as we are going to see. Anyway, that's what we have. Of course, now you will start by entering the opening balances. You'll start with the opening balance, which you have to enter. So this is on 1st. This is on 1st January 2023. So I'll come here under the date column, put 1st. So I'll put 1st. Let me just put 1. Now we have the balance. We have the balance. We have some bags of cement initially. We have 200 bags. I have 200 bags. I just take this straight to my balances. And they are telling us that the total cost of these bags is 5,770,000. So the amount is 5,770,000. If I want to get the rate, the average rate, of course I will get the cost divided by the bags, the quantity, which gives us 28,850. So for our opening balance, we have 200 bags, and the average rate or the average price of each bag is 28,850, giving us 5,770,000 as in the question. Now thereafter, you have to look at the purchases and then the issues, but you have to mind about the dates. So our next transaction is on 5th, where we purchased 300 bags. So on 5th, we come under the receipts. Whenever you purchase, you record under the receipts. So on 5th, we purchased how many bags? We purchased 300 bags at a rate of how much? How much is the cost of each bag? That is 28,990. So the rate is 28,980. Sorry, 990, not 80. 990. How much is the amount? Of course, we multiply to get our quantity, the bags, times the purchase price of each, giving us 8,697,000. Remember, this is the store ledger account where we have to update our balances every after transaction. So for the quantity balance, of course, you already have the 200 at the start, but you have to add the 300 purchased bags. So you have your balance as 500,000. You have your balance as 500 bags of cement as at the end of the 5th day of January. Of course, whenever you purchase, your balances will increase. Whenever you purchase, your balances will increase both for the amount as well as the quantity. So to get the closing balance after this receipt of 300 bags, we get the 5,770,000 plus the amount of the purchases. Then we come up with 14,467,000. Now we have to get the average rate. In total, so far we have 500 bags. But of course, this is a mixture of our opening balance plus the 300 units we have purchased. So we have to get the average price. Remember, I told you to get the weighted average price or the weighted average cost. We get the total cost of the units we have in stock, divide by the quantity at hand, which is 500, giving us a weighted average price of 28,934. We move to the next transaction. Take you back briefly to the question, what is the next transaction? Of course, that is on 7th January, where we issued 250 bags of cement. Now, this is an issue, so we record under the issues columns. We record under the issues, we record under the issues columns. So we are issuing out how many bags? 250 bags of cement. We are issuing out 250 bags of cement. So we record under the issues. 250 bags of cement. Now, when you're issuing out, of course, your inventories, your stock will reduce. But now, how do we value these bags of cement we are issuing out? So when we are assigning the cost to these bags we are issuing out, we use the average. This should come here, just down here. This should be 250. And the date is 7th. The date, so it is 7th. We have 250 units and issue 250. We are saying that we have to assign a cost to these 250 bags we are issuing out, and under the weighted average method, we cost these units at their weighted average cost, which is 28,934. So this is what we use to value these units for these bags which we are issuing out, meaning that the cost of this issue, I get my quantity, the bags, the number of bags, times the rate, which is our weighted average, to come up with 7,233,500. That is the cost of these bags we are issuing out. Remember, we have to update our balances, and we had 500 units. So to get the balances in quantity, we get the 500 units minus the 250. This is already a negative. So giving us 250 bags. So 500 bags at hand minus the 250 we are issuing out, we remain with 500. We will remain with the 250 bags as a result of that issue. When it comes to the balance, the amount, we have 14,467,000, but because I'm issuing out 250 bags with the cost of this, then I'll minus the 7 million from the 14,467 to come up with our closing balance of inventory as at that date. Remember, to get the weighted average, I told you, you simply get the cost of goods available for sale, which is this, Then we divide by the number of units available for sale, and so far we have 10 units available for sale, giving us 28,934 as our average price. We move to the next transaction. That was on 10th, where we issued out 170 bags of cement. This is on 10th. Issued out 170 bags of cement. How much is the price? That is 28,800. 28,800. And you know that to get the amount of this receipt, you get the units purchased times the price, giving us 4,896,000. But remember, you have to update your balance. We have a 250 plus a 170, giving us 420 units at that date at the end. Then the amount will also increase. The amount balance will also increase. We get the 7,233,500 plus the 4,896,000, get 12,129,500, and our average price is determined by getting the cost of goods available for sale divided by the number of units available for sale. So it is this divided by the 420 units, giving us a weighted average price of 28,880. The next transaction, of course, it's an issue on 17th. But before that, we see that on 15th, January 2023, let me take you to the question and you see that. On 15th January 2023, one of the customers returned 50 bags of cement to the business, being part of the bags sold on 7th January 2023. So we have to record this. One of our customers is returning goods, is returning some 50 bags of cement on 15th. So we have to record that as a receipt. This is on 15th. 15th, one of our customers returned, this is 10th. This is 15th, this is 15th. There is a transaction on 13th, I think. That's the first transaction. On 13th, before you go to 15th, there is a 13th there. We purchased 200 bags of cement. Zimbe Hardware purchased 200 bags of cement at 28,950. 28,950. We get our amount for this receipt. We multiply. Don't forget to update your balances. It's a 420 plus 200, giving us 620 units. And then the amount column of the balances will also increase by the amount of the purchase, giving us 17,919,500. How do we get the rate for the quantity bags at the end or in our balance columns? We get the cost of goods available for sale. We divide by the number of units available for sale, giving us a weighted average price of 28,902. Now from 13th, I take you back to the question from 13th. I think we can now deal with the transaction on 15th, where one of the customers returned 50 bags of cement. So on 15th, one of the customers returned 50 bags of cement. Since it's a return by the customer, we'll record that as a receipt. But now, how would we value these bags returned? Question is very clear. One of the customers returned 50 bags of cement to the business, being part of the bags sold on 7th January 2023. Let's check on that. The bags sold on 7th January. From 7th January, the bags we sold, the cost of each was 28,934, and that will be the price or the rate to use for that. So we value them at 28,934 because that was the cost assigned to each bag. How would we get the amount? We get our bags purchased times the cost or the rate, giving us 14 million, giving us 1,400,000, 46,700. Don't forget to calculate your balance. It's a 620 plus 50, giving us 670. Don't forget to calculate the balance columns of the amount column of the balance, whereby you get the total cost of the goods available for sale, then the number of units available for sale. This is this plus the cost of the goods purchased, giving us that. Then to get the rate, get the cost of goods available for sale divided by the number of units available for sale, giving us 28,905 as our average price. We move to the next transaction. We need to see what happened. What happened next after 15th? Of course, now we move to 17th, where we are issuing 400 bags. So on 17th, we issued out 400 bags. Don't forget to record under the receipts, under the issues rather, because it's a sale. So 400 bags. Remember, we value these bags at the average cost per bag as at that date. And if we look at our balances, you will see that the average cost per bag is 28,905. So we shall assign 28,905 as the cost for each and every bag that was issued on this 17th day of January. Then we get the amount of the issue, so the cost of these goods or these bags that were sold on that date. We have 400. The rate, of course, don't forget that we have to adjust our balances. So we need to find out how many bags do we have after this issue. It's a 670. And of course, I'm removing 400 bags. We end up having 270 bags. Don't forget to update your balances. This minus this. Of course, I'm using a plus sign simply because this is already negative. But if these figures were in brackets, of course, we just minus them from the 19,366,200. But I'm trying to add simply because Excel does not accept the use of brackets. When you see brackets in a column, of course, they will change to negative sign. So when I'm coming up with a formula, I'll have to put plus because this is a negative. So we have that as our rate, and then the balance. Then from there, of course, we move to the next transaction. What next? Let me take you back to the question. From 17th, of course, we move to 19th because this is 13th. So we move to 19th. We issued out 200. This is on 19th. It's an issue of 200 units. Still, the average price will be the same. The average cost or the average price per bag is 28,905. To get the amount of this issue, I get the bags issued out times the rate, giving us that. To get the balance, says it's a 270 minus our 200, giving us 70. Then the balance is this minus this, giving us that. To get the average rate per bag, we get the cost of goods, or the cost of bags available for sale divided by 70, giving us that. What next do we have? Let's move to the next transaction and see. From 19th, we move to 22nd, where we purchased 150 bags. So on 22nd, see the purchase of 150 bags at the price of how much? Let's try to find out. The price of 29,050, 29,50. Get the amount, the quantity, bags, then the rate. Don't forget to update your balance whenever you purchase. The quantity balance increases. So now we have 420 bags. Then the balance, the amount balance will also increase. The amount of the purchases giving us that. Don't forget to come up with the average rate, which is the cost of goods available for sale, divided by the number of units, giving us that. Now from 22nd, we need to see what happened. 22nd, this is 27th, this is 25th. But here they are telling us that the business returned 40 bags of cement, the supplier, on 23rd January 2023. Now, how do we post this? We are returning 40 bags. It's like, so you recorded this as an issue. You recorded this like an issue, like how we record the issues. This is on 23rd. You're returning how many bags? You're returning 40 bags. So you go to the columns of issues. Say that our inventory is reducing by 40 bags. But now, how would we post these 40 bags? Since we are using the average method, we shall value them at the average method as at that date. As at that date. As at that date. The 70 bags, I think there was a mistake here. The 70 bags, yes, we purchased. We issued out 200 from the 270 to come up with this, but I think I didn't adjust the rate. This rate should have been, the rate should have been, if there is a mistake somewhere here, the rate. This is the rate. Don't be this. This should be. Oh, okay. I think I had first to get the amount before, and the amount was how much? The amount was the 78. Then we divide by our 70 units. And the amount was this plus this, giving us something around 2 millions. Okay. Then to get the rate, we get this divided by the quantity, giving us that. Yeah, I think this should be the rate. Then we come here, this changes to 9003. But let me first do the formatting. Let's format these to numbers, 0 decimal places. I'll use 1,000 separator. Yeah, okay. So here we are on 23rd, we are issuing out 40. And these 40 units, as I've told you, that we treat this as an issue. Post the business is returning back some bags of cement to the supplier. And I told you that since we're using the weighted average method, we'll follow these are the weighted average price as at that date, which is 29,004. Then, so the cost of these bags returned will be this, the number of bags minus the average cost, giving us this. But remember, since we are returning, our quantity at hand reduces by 40 bags, so we have 180 bags now. Then the amount column of the balance will also reduce as a result of this issue. So it is the 6,380,834 minus this, giving us 5,220,683. Then from there, we need to look at the next tranche. We need to look at the next transaction. We need to look at the next transaction. Don't forget, you have to get your rate, the average rate, whereby you get the cost of goods available for sale divided by the number of units available for sale at that date, which is 29,004. 29,004. That is on 23rd. What next? 25th, where we purchased 100 bags of cement. The bags of cement at how much? Let's try to find out and see. Try to find out. We see the cost of these purchases. The cost of these purchases. Try to find out the cost of these purchases. Let me share a question briefly. Yeah, 100 bags at 29,980. 29,980. This is this, giving us that. Don't forget that your balances will have to be should be out. Your balances will have to be updated. So if I update my balance, we have 180 units. We add the units purchased, that is 100 units, giving us 280. It is 280. Remember, the balance amount will also increase, giving us that, but we have to get the average cost per bag, whereby we get the cost of the bags available for sale divided by the number of bags available for sale, giving us an average price of 29,352. 29,352. Then finally, on the last day, our last transaction is on 27th. Issued out 100 bags. These are issues. Issues we assign a cost to each bag, and that is the average cost per bag as at that date. And from our storage account, we see that the balance, the red column of the balances shows that as at that date, the average cost per bag is 29,352, which is that. We multiply to get the cost of this issue, which is this minus the rate. Remember, when you issue out, the balances have to be updated and the balances will reduce. So we have to 80,000, but we issued out 100. So we have 180 units. Then the amount for the balances will also reduce by the amount of the bags. We end up having 5,283,439. So to get the average rate, average cost per bag, you know how we do that. We get the cost of the goods or the cost of the bags available to sell, divided by the number of units available for sale. So we are finally there, and we see that our closing inventory in units, we have 280. Then in terms of monetary value, our inventory is 5,283,449. So according to the question, you are required to prepare storage card and tell the quantity and the cost of closing stock as at 31st January 2023. Maybe what you can do, you can come down here and say the quantity of closing stock is 180 bags, and the cost of closing stock is shillings, 5,283,139. So that is the value of closing stock in both monetary terms and in terms of units. So that is your closing stock. That is your closing stock. That is our closing stock. Yeah, so that is your storage account. As you can see, I think it's now very, very clear. So that's how we have managed to use the weighted average cost method. My next presentation, I'll show you how we can use the FIFO method. But of course, you need to be practicing. Practice is very, very key when it comes to these methods of calculating the values of closing stock, the FIFO method and the weighted average method. Practice is very, very important. Practice is very important. Practice is very important. So that's it all. Thank you for watching. This is Senior Huntington. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and don't forget to share with friends. Thank you for watching.